Is this the end of Warzone now that RedSec, the COD killer, has finally arrived? Well, definitely not with that name, but it might be. Let's talk about it for a minute. So, if you haven't heard, Battlefield released their first battle royale. RedSec came out earlier this week on the 28th, after the game, after 18 days of the game being released. And it's really good. It has some issues. It has some things that need work. It has some stuff it does really well. And to be honest, I think it's a really good competitor to Warzone, specifically the battle royale of Warzone. So I want to start off. I want to open with what RedSec struggles with, because I think it's important to frame everything in this context of there is stuff that this game struggles with, and it struggles not just for the YouTuber, the content creator, the streamer. It struggles for, I think, the casual player in a lot of ways, and that's not something that's good for the game. But a lot of it is fixable. Okay, so, and then I want to get into what it does really well, and then I want to get into kind of the heart of the question: why is it a challenger, and why could it knock down the Warzone BR, and why it will never kill the Warzone BR? So, where does it struggle? RedSec struggles first off in the settings. They're so bad, and the default settings are horrible. It's really sub-ideal at best. And as someone who plays with what I would refer to as casual players, I mean, it's not really the right label, because a lot of these guys play 10, 12 hours a week. However, they they don't take it super serious. So I think the casual label fits, and the settings are daunting. I sat down with a buddy of mine, after I have been playing this game for months at this point, and I sat down with him to work through settings. And I mean, he doesn't play the multiplayer, so this is all new to him. And after 20 minutes, he's like, "Screw it, we're just gonna play. Let's see what happens." And it was challenging. A lot of the issues that he had were because the settings aren't right, because they're bad at default. Okay, settings are bad. The UI is clunky. Again, both of these things are Battlefield's fault. They're not RedSec specific, but they do. But for free to play players, there's no difference, right? The UI is clunky. There's been some bugs and some issues that have cropped up. Most of them they've addressed or said they're going to address. Bugs with Bloom, bugs with mantling, bugs with just some general movement stuff that's not working right. So fine, like that's totally doable. That's fixable. They're working on it, but it's still a negative that shows up in the game. And we need to be, the devs need to be on top of getting this stuff fixed, and fixed soon, so that it doesn't degrade the experience. The missions, I think the missions are really unclear, and this is somewhere that Warzone is a clear winner over RedSec. Of Warzone, you know exactly what missions are, where they are, what they're doable with, and there's no issue, right? You know what to do, you know how to do it, and the UI around missions is very clear. Pick up contract, do what it tells you to do. All right. Once you figure it out how to do it once, you've got it. RedSec's different. You have to go into the pause menu. You have to select a mission. You have to read a bunch of stuff to figure out what you're supposed to do. It's clunky. I don't think it fits very well in the BR. I think it gets in the way. I think they need to redo that and revisit it, to make it simpler. And there's just some general clunkiness in the game. Mantling, there's mantling issues. There's issues, and I'll say this: you run into issues in RedSec, and there's how do I say this? There's tension here, right? It is designed to be a battle royale. It is not a unlike Warzone, which is Call of Duty in battle royale form. This is really geared to be a battle royale, which inherently is slower. It is more methodical. And a lot of design choices center around making sure that the game plays in that way. However, there are times in which that slow methodicalness gets in the way when you need it to be active, right? So, for example, I was in a gunfight trying to bring my people back through the respawn towers, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then, I got pushed by a team. I tried to airstrike so that, for cover, so I could, finish the revive and get out of there. I couldn't get the airstrike off. I couldn't get my gun out. Like, it just too many animations, too many things going on. It jammed me up, and I ended up dying, not able to fight back. Um, and so that's where this tension lies, right? You can't have these mechanics be super smooth and fast and efficient like Warzone does in a lot of ways, and still maintain that BR pacing that RedSec has carved out for itself. And so again, it's a tension. It is a negative in certain situations. In other situations, it works fine and it's great, and it is in fact very playable. So again, attention on that. It's not a total negative, but when it does crop up as a negative, it sucks. Okay. Um, but but other than that, there's issues with mantling, issues with like being able to back up, and you just like back up into something small that you don't see, right? And it just you can't do anything about it. So um, just some ju- just some movement clunkiness that I think they can clean up a bit. I don't think it'll ever be as smooth and fast as Warzone, but I don't think it's ever designed to be that way. And I think it's fine to have two separate games that play different. Um, so I my list is fairly short. I mean, we could dig into this for a long time, but that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is this going to kill Warzone. So what works well? Well, the pacing actually works really well. And the fire and the ring of fire and the way that works and it's constantly moving is terrific. I think it is a huge breath of fresh air. I think it really limits the ability to hold teams to camp and guard the edge. So like in Warzone, you can really trap teams and hold angles by by just knowing where the circle is going to be and kind of and seeing who's out there. And there's a lot you can do to really limit your um other teams' ability to effectively move. And the constantly moving circle and the instant death that comes with it, I think changes that and really opens it up and pushes teams to move faster, right? There's no gas plays, there's no fire plays. You touch the ring of fire, you're toast, which totally fresh, plays really well. And I think it really does a good job of keeping the fight moving, which Warzone can struggle with sometimes. So the ring, the fire system is great. The anti-cheat is doing phenomenal work. Can they keep it up indefinitely? We don't know. We'll find out, right? Time will tell. But for now, it's doing great. Cronus is struggling. The various cheat providers are hit and miss on whether they work or not. They get detected quite a bit compared to say Warzone for the last 5 years. And there's just a lot of uncertainty and a lot of struggle in the cheating community right now, and I think that's really good for the game. I want to talk about the looting for attachments. I have been vocally opposed to this for a long time because I've run into situations. Fortnite's one example where I will get into a 50-50 gunfight and I lose the gunfight because his gun is just better. It's not that he has a better AR, he has the AR, but it's the gold version, and the only one the game has presented to me thus far is the blue version, right? And in a 50-50, that's a losing fight. Okay. And that's been totally frustrating for me, and I've been very turned off on it because it focuses on RNG, it's randomness that decides whether you win or lose. In this case, the way they do it with upgrading your weapons, upgrading the ground loot, I mean, you don't need a custom gun. I've gotten, I picked mine up. I don't have any that are like spectacular right now, but you really, if you're looting properly and you're kind of paying attention to what you pick up, you can do really well with the weapons on the ground. And once you upgrade them and get some attachments on them, I'm not too worried about it. I think it's a really good addition. I think they've really balanced it versus looting for individual attachments, which can be a little frustrating if you just don't find the one you want, right? In this case, it kind of gives you options, and it just feels good. It feels natural. It feels it makes sense when you play it. So that's a huge W for me. And I think it's really opened up what's usable in the game, unlike Warzone, where you have to have the right gun, you have to have the right loadout, it has to be the right build, or you are at a massive disadvantage most of the time. The hard metas are hard for a reason. Battlefield is really straight away from that, and the challenges of getting your weapons, the fact that you don't get a full-blown loadout, the fact that you have so many different aspects going on, really limits the need for it. Most people, I think, will play a lot of the game without having to get their weapons. If they do, they get one, right? You're not getting both weapons. You're not getting a full loadout. So it balances and it just keeps the game feeling open and available, right? Will that change over time? We'll see. But for now, it feels fresh. It feels playable. I'm enjoying it. I think it's as someone who started content literally talking about um being in True Game Data's Discord, just talking endlessly about loadouts and how to build guns and like what I prefer over what other people prefer. Um, Going away from that is surprising to me that I'm enjoying doing that and not having to kind of have that content. I mean, people do, it's fine. I don't think it's necessary in RedSec, and I think if they keep the ground loop moving and they kind of like keep some balance in the weapons, I don't think I don't think you're gonna have to worry about it long term. So W on that. Um, no kill cams surprisingly is keeping the game feeling honest. And couple that with the success of the anti-cheat. I know there's cheaters in the game. I know we've all seen the clips of it. It doesn't feel that effective. I don't run into it. And honestly, I haven't with the guys that I play with, the phrase "he's cheating" is uttered a lot and has been in Warzone. And it's, somewhat accurate more often than we would all like. But no one's felt that. No one's died and been like, "Oh, that's so sus." It's like you die and it's like, "Yeah, I fucked that up." And that I think no kill cams I think is really helpful for that. So I think that's good. The destruction's another one. I think it's great. I think the way they've done the destruction is really helpful to moving forward in the game and progressing it. I don't think it detracts from the game or the BR aspect of it. There was some concern. I had some concerns. I know some of my friends had concerns that, hey, it would just be all about destruction. It would be cheesy. It wouldn't feel natural. I don't think that's true. I think they did a great job with it. Battlefield 6 in general, but the way they've applied it in RedSec, I think has been great. You know, my favorite experience so far is I was hiding from a tank. The tank didn't know I was there. My buddy's like, "Let me give you a ride." All of a sudden, the wall behind me collapses. My buddy's there with his truck, and he's like, "Get in." I hop in. The tank takes a shot, hits the wall, and we're over a hill and gone. And it was a good experience, right? It was like, look at that. I didn't have to go pop out the door, run around the building, or have him pull around the building with the truck so the tank would see it and be able to shoot it. Instead, he just went through the wall. I hopped in, off we went. And the tank never had a shot at us. And so that's sort of that application of destruction and the things that it opens up in this game. It's great. It's really, really good and really makes the game play different than Warzone, which is I think terrific. So what's the net effect of this? Well, the Battlefield effect is being felt in Call of Duty right now, and it's apparent to anybody who's just even taken a cursory look at what's going on with Call of Duty. SBMM going out the door, or at least being toned way down. Aim assist being toned down. The aim assist in Battlefield is way less effective than it is in Call of Duty. It's still there. It can be strong. But compared to how Call of Duty brings it in, it's very different. And I feel like it's very manageable. So huge props to Battlefield for pushing Call of Duty to make changes in these areas. The SBMM change, aim assist, and then we're getting Blackout too. We don't know much about the mode, but the fact that we're getting it tells me I think Call of Duty understands that there might be some writing on the wall for Warzone, and RedSec might kind of put Warzone down a little bit. Maybe not permanently, but at least into maybe a hiatus. And so let me talk about what I mean by that. Warzone Battle Royale, okay, not Resurgence. Warzone Battle Royale has been struggling. It did really well in Season 3 of the BO6 era because we got Verdansk back. But through much of Urzikstan, both the MW3 version and BO3 version, which we had, or BO6 version we had forever, was awful. Like, it just wasn't a great map. As much as I wanted it to be a good map, it got stale really fast. We didn't get a lot of changes to it. We didn't get a lot of updates to it. And then we saw a lot going on in other areas, right? We saw Resurgence get love, we saw zombies get love, we saw multiplayer get love, and Warzone was kind of left to its own devices, which I think was really bad for that game. And then when they brought Verdansk back, it was like a breath of fresh air. It felt like we were going home again. It felt really good. And then season 3 Reloaded came, and everything we thought that they were doing good, the anti-cheat, the development cycle, fewer bugs, getting it all just flushed down. They just, they showed that it was a one-hit pony. It was a one-hit wonder, one-trick pony. It was not the future for this franchise at that time. And, I think the Battle Royale suffered greatly for it, and players have exited en masse. Rebirth has really not seen much attention. The Resurgence mode has seen very little attention. They haven't changed Rebirth much at all this entire year. They haven't gotten any new maps. They have had very little going on it. The Haunting event, I hear, was okay. I couldn't actually update the game, so I didn't even get to play in the Halloween event this year. Not that I played much Warzone anyways. So we really, I think, are in a position where Call of Duty has to make a decision. They have too many things going on, too many different aspects, and something like a Battle Royale really needs a large, diverse player base to be successful. It just does, okay? And I don't think they have that right now. And so that's really where the problem is for Warzone. The player base doesn't love it, and so they're not going to play it over Rebirth, and they're not going to play it over other games. So what do? Well, Activision's teased that they plan to bring out, or I guess Microsoft has teased they plan to bring out Blackout 2. So what we've started kind of last year was moving the update cycle from December for Blackout or for Warzone into the early spring, March, April, February, that kind of range, which I think is great. Give multiplayer some time to breathe. And in this case, they're bringing Blackout 2 back. And I think, we could be looking at this as kind of like an A/B test of, does RedSec survive that long? I think it will. But if RedSec is the kind of game that people want to play, can Blackout be the Call of Duty version of that? Just like Warzone was the Call of Duty version of BR. I think it's doable. I think it's going to be an interesting couple of months as Call of Duty positions itself for the big Warzone update. And I think we'll get a better idea, a better sense of how they're treating the future of Warzone. And we've also got this pending Warzone 3 update, right? We're going to get Modern Warfare 4. They're supposed to change completely change the engine out. It's going to be a Modern Warfare 2 all over again. From what we've heard, progression won't carry over, just like Warzone 2. And I think a lot of this just really sets RedSec up to kind of be the BR that gets played. People that like Resurgence aren't going to like RedSec, but they don't like BR anyways in most cases. So they're going to stay on Resurgence. Resurgence, Rebirth Island will live forever. Just, it just is, okay? But the Battle Royale aspect of it, I can see them sunsetting the Warzone brand in the BR. And you have you have Call of Duty Resurgence and Call of Duty, and they give us Blackout, right? Or maybe it would be a Warzone Blackout, something like that. But I can see them setting aside Warzone for a little while and kind of give them some time to recoup and decide what Warzone's going to be going forward. And I think that's important. And I think that's needed for Call of Duty because Warzone's gotten stale. It's hard to keep playing it year after year, especially when they keep messing around and changing it up and doing some things that, that aren't great. And I've got another video coming up that talks about some of the stuff that Warzone's done over the last few years, to make it struggle. So at the end of the day is Are we going to see RedSec kill Warzone? No, probably not. It's not directly. But can we see Warzone kind of getting set aside for a little bit, kind of getting sunset a little bit, just so that they can recoup and kind of bring it back in a better state? And maybe we play Blackout? Could be. I think it's possible. But we'll see what the future holds. That being said, I think RedSec's great. I'm having a great time on it, playing it a bunch. I'm curious to see what they end up doing with Black Ops 7 and Warzone going forward. And yeah, well, we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for sticking around.